Welcome everyone to Relationship Stories, a place where powerful fictional stories explore love, trust, heartbreak, and the strength people discover when life changes without warning. Sit back, relax, and experience a completely original journey about unexpected choices, hidden secrets, and the courage to build a better future after everything seems to fall apart. My name is Ethan Mercer, and I worked as a senior architect for one of the largest design companies in the city of Portland, where every project demanded patience, careful planning, and attention to the smallest details that most people never noticed. That habit of observing every little change followed me into my personal life. Even though I always wished my relationship could remain the one place where I never had to question anything. For almost 4 years I had shared a beautiful apartment overlooking the river with my girlfriend, Serena Brooks, whose warm smile once made every difficult day feel lighter and every challenge seem possible to overcome together. Lately, however, that familiar warmth had slowly faded into distant conversations, distracted glances, and excuses that sounded believable on the surface but somehow left an uncomfortable silence hanging between us. One Friday evening, Serena stepped into the living room wearing an elegant black dress that I had never seen before, carefully checking her reflection while telling me she planned to spend the night celebrating the birthday of an old college friend at a private event across town. She smiled politely before walking toward the door, but her expression carried none of the excitement that usually came with special occasions, and for reasons I could not explain, I felt as though she had already left emotionally long before she walked out of the apartment. After the front door closed, the apartment became unusually quiet, and instead of turning on the television or opening a book, I remained seated beside the large window, watching the lights of the city shimmer across the river while countless unanswered questions drifted through my mind. Every delayed message, every canceled dinner, every sudden change in her routine seemed insignificant on its own, yet together they formed a picture that quietly suggested our relationship was changing in ways I had been unwilling to admit. Nearly an hour passed before my phone vibrated on the coffee table, but instead of seeing a message from Serena, I noticed the name of an old colleague named Daniel Hayes, someone I had not spoken to since we worked together on a commercial project several years earlier. His message was surprisingly short and unsettling because it simply said that if I cared about my future, I should verify where Serena had really gone before making any important decisions about our life together. I stared at the message for several minutes without replying because Daniel had never been the kind of person who enjoyed creating unnecessary drama, and his calm personality made his warning feel even more serious. Rather than letting fear control my thoughts, I opened my laptop and began checking every detail I could think of, believing that facts were always more valuable than assumptions. The first thing I noticed was that Serena had disabled the location sharing feature on her phone earlier that afternoon, something she rarely did unless she wanted complete privacy during an important meeting or family visit. I searched through her recent social media activity expecting to find photos or updates from the celebration she had mentioned, yet every account remained completely silent as though the event had never existed. Before I could decide what to do next, another message arrived from Daniel, explaining that he had accepted an invitation to the same birthday gathering Serena had described, but after spending almost an hour there he had never seen her arrive. He added that he only contacted me because he believed every person deserved the truth before making lifelong commitments, even when that truth was painful enough to change everything. A strange sense of calm settled over me as I picked up my car keys and locked the apartment behind me because deep inside I knew this night would determine the future of my relationship forever. During the drive across the city, the familiar streets seemed unusually quiet while every passing traffic light gave me another moment to wonder whether I was about to uncover a terrible misunderstanding or finally face a reality that had been hiding in plain sight for far too long. The address Daniel sent led me to a quiet waterfront district filled with upscale restaurants, boutique hotels, and private lounges where expensive cars lined the streets and strangers rarely questioned one another. I parked a short distance away and noticed Daniel waiting beneath a street lamp with a serious expression that told me he had been debating whether to contact me all evening, yet ultimately decided honesty mattered more than staying silent. Daniel greeted me with a firm handshake and quietly explained that he had followed every invitation detail Serena had shared because he genuinely expected to meet her at the birthday celebration, but she had never appeared inside the venue at any point during the evening. Instead of making accusations or offering dramatic theories, he simply pointed toward a secluded parking area behind a nearby hotel and told me that everything I needed to know was waiting there. As we walked toward the darker end of the parking lot, my heartbeat remained surprisingly steady because my years of solving complex problems had taught me that panic never changed reality, no matter how painful the truth might become. Several vehicles stood under dim lights, but one silver sedan immediately caught my attention because it belonged to Serena and had been parked far away from the main entrance where very few people would casually pass. The windows of the car were slightly clouded, making it difficult to see inside. Yet faint movement behind the glass revealed that someone was sitting in the front seats. I stopped several steps away without saying a word because the scene unfolding before me already answered questions that had quietly haunted my thoughts for weeks, leaving very little room for hopeful explanations. A few moments later, the passenger door opened, and a well-dressed man stepped onto the pavement while adjusting his jacket before suddenly freezing the instant our eyes met across the parking lot. Serena climbed out right behind him, and the relaxed smile on her face disappeared almost immediately as surprise gave way to nervous calculation, creating a silence so heavy that none of us needed to speak before understanding that our lives had just changed forever. The man lowered his eyes for a brief moment before quietly introducing himself as Marcus Dalton, a successful entrepreneur whom I vaguely remembered meeting during a charity fundraiser several months earlier where Serena had insisted we attend together. Without offering any excuses or attempting to defend himself, he murmured that he would leave immediately because the situation had already become far more painful than any explanation could possibly repair. After Marcus walked away toward his vehicle, Serena remained standing a few feet from me with folded arms, struggling to find words that could somehow undo the reality we had both witnessed only moments earlier. She finally broke the silence by saying that nothing was as simple as it appeared, but her voice lacked confidence, and even she seemed uncertain whether she truly believed what she was saying. I looked at her calmly and asked one simple question about the birthday celebration she had described before leaving our apartment earlier that evening, knowing there was no honest answer that could connect her story with the place where we now stood. Instead of responding directly, she glanced toward the ground and admitted that she had been confused for months about our relationship, yet she had never found the courage to speak honestly because she feared the consequences of telling the truth. Her admission brought no anger into my heart because disappointment had already replaced every emotion that once demanded explanations or arguments. I realized that trust was never destroyed by a single mistake alone but by countless small choices that slowly pulled two people apart until they became strangers sharing the same home without realizing how far they had drifted. Taking a slow breath, I told Serena that every future we had planned together no longer belonged to us because a relationship could survive many hardships, but never survive the absence of honesty and respect. She reached toward me with tears beginning to fill her eyes and quietly asked for another chance, yet I gently stepped back, knowing that some decisions were not made out of revenge but out of the quiet understanding that walking away was the only path that protected the person I was becoming. I returned to the apartment before sunrise, packed only the belongings that truly mattered, and left behind every object that carried memories of promises which no longer had a place in my future. Although the silence inside those familiar rooms felt heavy, it also carried a quiet sense of freedom because I finally understood that peace begins the moment we stop fighting to save a relationship that only one person is trying to protect. Over the following months, I focused entirely on rebuilding my life, accepting new architectural projects, reconnecting with old friends, and discovering hobbies that I had neglected while trying to keep my relationship alive. Each new experience reminded me that heartbreak is not the end of a meaningful life, but the beginning of a stronger chapter where self-respect becomes more valuable than empty apologies. Nearly a year later, I unexpectedly met a woman named Amelia Carter during a community design project, and our friendship grew naturally through honesty, kindness, and countless conversations that never required secrets or excuses. She taught me that genuine love is built through trust, consistency, and mutual respect, proving that the right person never leaves you wondering where you stand or questioning your own worth. Looking back on everything that happened, I no longer felt anger towards Serena, because holding on to bitterness would only have chained me to a painful chapter that had already ended. Instead, I felt grateful for the difficult lesson because it showed me that even the deepest disappointment can become the foundation for a happier and more meaningful future when we choose courage over resentment. Thank you for spending your time with us and joining this emotional journey from heartbreak to hope, and we truly appreciate every viewer who supports our stories and becomes part of this growing community. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.